live streaming tonight, Ms. Suze? I've had a lot of questions come through, a lot of text asking. Are we live streaming, Dr. Baracco? Are we good? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, I told them I thought so. I just don't know how to tell. Thank you.
I just want to remind everyone, there's 2 opportunities for you to address the board this evening. The first will be in a few minutes after, in regards to our action items. Second opportunity will be at the end of our meeting, and we'll call you up during our public comments section. If you would please make sure you sign up on the papers in the back of the room. So with that, we will go to our public hearing on Superintendent Contract 2020.
So you're addressing the public, is that right?
Yes.
The 21st. Has the time been stipulated yet?
No, not as of yet.
Okay. Can we do that now to firm it up?
Sure. 4 o'clock, 4:30?
I'm
5?
amenable, or it's acceptable.
What time?
4 o'clock?
4 o'clock?
Okay.
I'm in.
4 o'clock?
Works for me.
4 o'clock on the 21st.
Where are we meeting? Just the
This room here?
LGI? Thank you.
K-Trap? No? Okay.
Thank you, Rep.
Thank you. All right, next we'll move on to our agenda approval, deletions, additions. Dr. Baracco.
Okay, you have a revised agenda before you. Include one new, so 8E, uses section, there's a adjustment on this estimate on field trips and miscellaneous revision to examinations. Other than that,
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Malkow,
Second.
second by Ms. Lessentine. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank
May
you.
I interrupt you? Can our attendees hear? You can hear up there? Okay. All right.
Okay. Mr. Marshall, is there any correspondence?
thank you, no.
No correspondence. We'll move on to our liaison committee updates. Ms. Lessentine?
For my committee, for Wellness Committee, they are planning a wellness walk in February, so look for that, so we can all participate. That's always a good one. For Cherville redevelopment, nothing for that at this time, and nothing on personnel from me.
Thank you. Dr. Malkow?
Yes, for Lake Central Education Foundation, they will be offering many grants to our teaching staff at the end of January. Again, there'll be many grants at the maximum of $250. I don't know if there will be a certain theme attached to them or not. We do want to thank everyone that perhaps joined us last week at our fundraiser at Culver's. We had 2 locations, Cherville and St. John's. So Education Foundation says thank you. As you know, in today's times, we appreciate all those little efforts that you make, and I know a lot of you went. And the young man at Sherrville, I said, have you been busy with Lake Central Education Foundation request? And he goes, oh, yeah, we've been busy. So that was a good thing.
That's good.
Very good. And the legislative, I happened to listen to the Legislative Action Network the other day. That was sponsored by ISBA, and I believe that Jenny was listening to it also, Jenny Medlin in the back. Our representatives this year are Julie Olthoff, Mike Aylesworth, Hal Slager. Hal happens to be here tonight. There's Hal. Basically, to summarize what the meeting talked about with the land, they call it, was the revenue forecast, which is going to be difficult, and the census, which is another thing that's going to be very difficult. So they anticipate, and Hal, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but they anticipate that it'll be a longer session than usual because of those two issues and the difficulties that we've had. You know that both the House and the Senate are supermajorities with the Republicans. Teacher compensation report, and I think Dr. Braca will talk about that in a minute. But what was really, I thought, very exciting is to know that some of the top issues that are coming out, of course, is school choice and the education savings account, and to be aware of those and where they can go. And a big reason is because 94% of Indiana students are in public education. I repeat that, 94% of Indiana students are in public education. The other issues that he shared, that would be Terry on that day. Concerns with revenue sharing if a referendum is passed. So if Lake Central would pass a referendum, they would need to share the money with the non-public entities within our school district, I should say non-public schools. Their concern with that, of course, from a legal standpoint is representation or taxation without representation. And that makes a lot of sense. It has already come up through the Ways and Means Committee. Their question is, how do we catch up our students after this loss that they've had? I thought that was a wonderful start to the possibility of what we can discuss in 21. I think that it behooves all of us educators to start thinking about what can we do. The Ways and Means Committee, as you know, is the group that determines the taxation level, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, Hal, but the budget type thing. And so if there's certain things that we think we need to catch our students up, then we need to be verbal about it and get that message out. Now, our two education committee chairpersons, because I asked who they might be, Bob Benning, and the Senate is Mr. Senator Ratz, R-A-T-Z. So I would say that if you have any suggestions, that you reach out to those gentlemen and start some dialogue. Was there anything else, Hal, that you wanted to share?
Yes. Come, if you'll step up to the podium, please.
Thank you. I'll be brief. If I could address everybody, I'm back on the job, sworn in, and one of the things I'm going to do differently this time is a more active role in communicating with this board. So if I need to drive back from Indianapolis for a school board meeting to answer questions, I'm planning on doing that. And then go back that evening. But I think there's something to be said about direct communication. I will caution everyone, in the beginning of the session, there's lots of bills that are filed that never get a hearing. And you'll read about the crazy ones in the newspaper. Sometimes members file bills because they've got a constituent pushing them, and they just have to file it, and it never sees the light of day. So I would just urge everybody, don't get too uptight. Invariably, there are education-related bills that have some nasty components to them, for lack of a better term. I can tell you any number of times that Mr. Veraco has contacted me with heartburn on something in a bill that we've managed to get smoothed over, so that the bill is maybe not favorable, but it's maybe not unfavorable as well. So those are the kinds of things that we'll address as the session moves on. It's not really until the second half, when bills switch houses, that we know what's in play and what's really out there to be concerned about. So I'm happy, and of course, Mr. Veraco has my cell number that you're welcome to use.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's one thing that Terry Spradlin did announce, that over the last 3 years, we've had 116 new laws put into place for K through 12 education. And I believe ISBA is taking more of a focus on the core elements versus all that stuff that happens, like you were just mentioning. And I think that's it. That's a good, if you have any other questions, reach out to me and I can let you know.
Madam President, just a short comment. I've just recently been made aware of, Hal, I'm glad you made the comment that you're sworn in and ready to go. I didn't realize this, maybe it is not general knowledge throughout the community, but state legislators in the state of Indiana, which is one of 13 states in the country, the elected legislator takes office immediately 1 day after the November election. For the rest of the country, they have to wait until the new year. Okay, thank you. I just thought I'd mention that for general consumption.
I didn't know that either.
All right, Mr. Marshall, do you have any information on your committees?
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Mr. Baxo?
Nothing to report on Diary Redevelopment Committee.
And both my committees, St. John Redevelopment as well as Dollars for Scholars, were quiet at this time. All right, so we'll move on to our official school board business topics, consent agenda. Dr. Veraco.
Thank you again, Mrs. Seuss. Seek board approval for the consent agenda, which includes minutes of our last board meeting on November 16th, as well as approval of all those claims, payroll, and extracurricular expenditures that you received in your official packets.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve?
Mr. Marshall,
Second.
Dr. Malkow is second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, there are no public comments regarding our action items, so we'll move right on to our official school board business topics. Regular agenda, Dr. Veraco.
Thank you again. My first item is to ask the board to approve the list of meeting dates for the 2021 calendar. As per usual, we do have 2 months where we only meet once. One is July and the other is December.
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Malkow,
Second.
second by Mr. Bexel. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm being told that Ms. Lessentine seconded that. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Hearing none, motion passes.
Okay, my first real item is to open a discussion with the board about the possibility of asking staff and families to complete a survey or a checklist after our upcoming Christmas/holiday break prior to returning to school. And this was suggested to me by one of our board members who believes, as I do as well, that if we ask people to reflect on their behavior before they return, it could reduce the spread in our schools. Some employers in Indiana have opted for taking a pledge to not send children to school with any symptoms. I have not found anyone who has done this type of a survey, at least in our region. I think a couple things we need to consider is how frequently we would ask our families to do this. Obviously, the clear-cut one is after we're out of school for at least 2 weeks. But then do we also have a clause that if you take your children out of school for more than X number of days, that we implement something such as this? And then we also need to decide, is this something we think our staff should be doing? I will share that it's my opinion, based on the amount of close contacts we've had, self-reported by staff members. I think they are conscious of being careful and being concerned about their fellow staff members to self-report. I think that's how we've gotten in a little bit of a jam here and there sometimes with staff because of the close contacts. So I think that part is working, but I know that there are schools that are requiring their staff to do that, certainly after they've been out of school for a weekend sometimes, and sometimes more than that. And then I just think we have to ask ourselves how much effort we put into it, meaning the follow-up for those folks who do not comply, whether it's a staff member or a student/family. So I'd open it up to board discussion at this time to hear the 5 board members' opinions.
So what would some of the questions on this questionnaire be?
It's going to be similar to what they do when we go in for a doctor's visit, right?
Correct.
Okay. Or,
Or the dental office.
yeah.
How will it be sent out? Are we looking at papers? Are we looking at emails? Are we looking at Google?
The simplest way is a Survey Monkey, so you are limited on the number of items, but that's the simplest way to tally the data and then be able to red flag something so we could make contact with someone who acknowledges. Although I think the instructions would have to say, if you answer yes to any of items 1 through 5, please contact your building principal.
Aren't most of our teachers using Google, though?
They are using Google.
Right, so wouldn't we make the certification form via Google so that the kids know where it's at, the parents know where it's at? It's something that they're used to. You can do as many, I mean, not that you need to do a ton of questions, but at least it doesn't limit you.
You could do it, but I'd just be concerned that it might blend in with all of the other stuff that they have versus something that may come through separately and blink at them a little bit. But it's an option.
How often are
would
we
do it your
looking at
pleasure.
this, doing this checklist?
I think
Every
that-
day, once a week?
Well,
when we
I
come
think
back?
initially he said when we come back from Christmas break and. when
And
we-
then who's responsible for checking that? I take it we're doing students and staff. Is that the suggestion? Or is it just staff?
I think we're in a dialogue right now about that, so we don't know. We're
Who's
conversing.
responsible? I'm just asking, who's
Yeah, I don't
responsible
know.
for checking to make sure that,
How does
I
your
think
service-
these are all things that the administrative team would have to make those decisions. That wouldn't be our decision to make. I know in our school, any staff member or student that walks through the building, and we do have students coming that come back to our building every day, they are required to fill out a certification before they walk through that door and show it as they walk in. I make my copy, here's mine right here, I fill it out, they see my name and date, and I may walk in.
You have to do it every day?
Every day.
Oh, wow.
Every day. And I'm not saying that we need to be that
Yeah.
specific, but with the uptick we had after Thanksgiving, you said those numbers went up. Could that have been prevented if parents and staff would have filled something out? I know the big issue was, well, people can lie. I get that. There are going to be people that are going to lie. However, if they are self-certifying and sending something in, I would hope that would make them think about integrity and everyone else around them rather than, because obviously people came that were ill the week after Thanksgiving, that knew that they were out, that knew that they were in situations, things like that, and they still sent their kids. Would they have maybe stopped and thought for a moment, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that because, like, for example, ours, it says, simple yes or no questions. Have you had a fever, cough, chills, or any muscle aches? Let's see, hold on. In the past 48 hours. 2, sore throat, runny nose, and/or loss of taste and smell. 3, nausea, vomiting, and/or diarrhea. 4, shortness of breath and/or headache. 5, have you tested positive for COVID within the last 14 days? 6, within the past 14 calendar days, have you been in close physical contact 6 feet or closer for at least 15 minutes with a person who is known to have tested positive for COVID? 7, in the past 48 hours, have you had a temperature greater than 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit? And 8, have you had a fever or taken medication to reduce your fever during the last 24 hours? If you've answered no to all these questions, you are approved to come on campus. If you answered yes to any of these questions, you must stay home and contact your immediate supervisor for further instructions. That's what we're required to do every day. I'm not saying that it needs to be that specific, but this is what other places are doing to reduce the spread. And so I just think that we need something, especially with numbers going up. We've got a basketball team that wants to travel over break. People are going to be traveling. We need to do something to protect ourselves. And I get people are self-reporting. I get it. But you know what? Even someone that's self-reporting might think differently. Oh, did I have that fever or did I have that cough? If they have to press yes or no. And I just think it makes people think about how that works. How would it work for students? You know, I'm not really sure. It's obviously going to be something that has to be taken care of, and the procedures need to be taken care of, so it's smooth. First week, it probably won't be smooth, but it will get smoother. That's how things get better. The COVID testing was horrible at the beginning. Still not much better, but it is better in many places because they've done that and they've worked forward to it. I just think we need to do something to protect our students and staff.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying. I just find it that my kids are only in the high school. I can't answer for middle school or elementary. But what about your elementary kids that don't carry a phone? What's their protocol?
Well, and that's where we pay our administrators a lot of money. I mean, that's what they need to come up with. Is it something that they click on a website before they get on the bus that their parents clicked the night before? It doesn't have to be the day of. But if the parents know that they have all weekend to submit this form by Monday, you know, and I'm not saying to keep anyone out of school if they don't. I'm simply saying, okay, this student, we don't have a form on file, let's put them, you know, bring them over here, figure out whatever the procedure is. That's not my job to figure out procedures, but there are procedures, like I said, that I could come up with like this if we needed to. It's not that big of a deal if they all put their minds together and figure out the procedures that need to be in place.
And I respect everything you're saying, but in my emails from Mr. Begley from the high school, every single email I get, and I think Don can attest to it, but we are getting, are you following the CDC guidelines? Are you, if you have the fever, if you have, you know, an upset stomach, or if you're just not feeling well, stay home. So I'm just trying to figure it out with you.
And I'm just saying off of Facebook alone, there are at least 6 different families in our district that did not report, sent their kids, and still posted stuff all over Facebook that they were positive. And I'm just saying, social media puts stuff out there, unless they're all making that up, but that's 6 different families that were in our district that said that they sent kids to school knowing that someone in their house had tested positive or had symptoms. I'm not saying that we have to keep anyone out. I told Dr. Veracco, I think that we should have some sort of a place where if parents have to send their kids, things like that, and you know, this is not the case. Maybe we have a, you know, the one room or whatever for those kids that didn't certify. I'm not saying keep them out of school because that's not going to help, but I am saying we need people, because whether we like it or not, this country is divided. And half of the people think that all is good and half the people think that it's not. And it really seems to be a 50-50 hit, and I just think we need to make a stance whichever way it is. That's my own opinion.
Have you talked to your administrative team about the feasibility of doing it? Do you have thoughts?
Well, it would be cumbersome with over 7,000 in-person students and 1,300 staff members who come to work nearly every day, where, you know, in schools that are doing all remote learning, they have a lot fewer employees coming to work every day. So I certainly would be hesitant to do it every day.
Yeah, no, I don't think it needs to be.
I don't think that it would fall apart quickly. And the
Absolutely.
question is, how much pressure do you apply to someone who is non-compliant? Because we don't want to exclude anybody. We need our students to get all the instruction they can, whether they're in person or at home. We don't want to go down that path. So that's why I hesitate to implement.
How do other people feel about this on the board?
I think it's a good idea. Like you said, it's daily is something that's probably not feasible, but maybe there's something we could do weekly or something in email or the SurveyMonkey or something like that. But like you said, some people are not going to honestly answer those questions. I mean, in that manner, in an honest manner. But I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Howard?
I'm in a position right now, I want to defer to the central office staff. Whatever they set up and what they consider is feasible, I'll accept. I don't want to make it too complicated.
Yeah, I just don't want to add more onto our teachers, you know, with all that they're doing now. And I don't know, is that something you'd have to bring up with LCTA and discuss that with them?
We'd have to mention it to them if they're going to be included, but they would have no bearing on asking families to.
Oh, no,
Complete a
I
survey.
just in teachers, because in my mind, the teachers are the ones that's going to have to make sure that, you know, Jake Sue's turned in his paper today. You know, that's how I'm looking at it.
It should be electronic, however we come
Electronic.
up with it.
Did you
And-
answer the question?
And
How did I say that?
it's not going to be a burden that you need to send somebody to the office because they didn't complete it. We're not going to disrupt their education for it. I'm not interested in doing that.
I agree.
So I think
But
the
to the
whole
list-
purpose
oh,
of doing this is the awareness. And
Correct.
once again, revisiting what those symptoms might look like, not to punish anybody or say you can't come to school, but to say, have you experienced any of these? Now, when I go to the doctor's office, which is often because of my B12 shot, they go through it every time, and I kind of glare at them, but at the same time, it makes me stop and think, have I, did I? So I think that awareness is a good thing, but the management of it, you know,
Right.
that would be up to you guys to determine. Are we anticipating going back on time in January?
We'll get to that here in a little bit.
Okay, because that could trigger some of this also, have an impact on that, so.
So who's going to, did you share these questions with Dr. Varacco, or?
No, we were just discussing it. If
discussing
any,
it?
I told him if anyone was interested, I'd be happy to share.
Any doctor's office has them.
Right, I mean, it's
And
the
Indiana
general, it can
says-
be any
Indiana
questions they
includes,
want.
Have
right.
you traveled outside of the country
Right.
too?
Or outside of the state or outside the area. And let's say that 20% of the kids, 30% of the kids don't comply the first time. Well, then those phone calls, you know, you've got it all electronically. That goes into an auto call, however they decide to do it, and those parents get called. And then they hopefully do better the next time, and hopefully that number goes down a percentage to 15%. And again, I mean, until we start implementing it and saying that this is important, if it's not important, and it's just going to be a checklist for people, and they're going to go, oh, okay, this is what the board wants us to do, let's just do this checklist, then yeah, it's not going to be what it's about. I'm talking about public safety. That's all, that's my main concern, is public safety, not another thing for the admin or anyone else to do, but public safety. That's my purpose behind this.
Okay, so if the board would consider that topic and then in the next couple of days respond in a group email where you fall on yes or no, and then the frequency, and, you know, we'll go from there. So my second item on the agenda tonight, which you should have a handout in front of you, and I maybe shouldn't have called it resolution, because we don't need a resolution yet tonight. So just to quickly review the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, that's a federal law that came into play last spring, and it was designed to protect staff members with their pay if they are positive for COVID and need to miss work, and or are a close contact of someone who was positive, and then they're asked to quarantine and also need to miss work. And so the initial law is scheduled to expire on December 31st. And so we've been talking about it for a while, that we like certain aspects of the law that says if you're coming and serving the students of Lake Central School Corporation and you're a close contact with a student, and in some classes, you know, I've received a lot of email from people who say no teacher should ever be within 6 feet of a student, and that's easier said than done. I think our board understands that. And I do think our teachers can avoid close contact in many cases, but not at 100% of the time. And certainly not some of our people who are working with younger children in the preschools and some of our coaches and so forth. So we do like the idea of protecting salary for staff members who get caught in this, for sure, in the service of Lake Central. And so our practice that we've been following thus far, and we've only, I think, had it happen once so far this year, was that they'll use the federal protected leave the first time they have to quarantine. And the second time, it's our expectation that they use the days that we allotted them for the current school year, the sick days that we gave them. This board remembers that we gave all of our aides days for this year so that our regular workers, our regular school year workers have days. And so the expectation was that they would use their own leave for the second time if it happened. And then if there's a third time and they're serving our students, and I only know of one, Terry may have to correct me, but it was a nurse, and they were all 3 times positive students who she had helped. And so for the third time, for the time of her quarantine, she did receive compensation. So I do, yes.
Could you clarify with the second time and the extra sick days? Could you tell me how that was done? They were
The
given.
second time they were quarantined, she used the sick days we gave her.
Right, and how many days did we give them for extra days?
It depended on how long the leave was. Most of the time it's over a weekend. So the leave itself over a weekend can sometimes be anywhere from 5 to 7 to 10 days.
Okay, because I had several people ask me that, and I didn't know, so, okay.
Yeah, it's calendar days, and so if there's a break involved, it's hard to say when it is. And then the other piece that really confuses folks is if we don't find out about the positive until 12 days after you were in contact with them, you might only be quarantined for 2 days. And that's why I think some of the federal people at the CDC said, look, if you got to day 12 without any symptoms, you probably don't need to be quarantined at all. And that's where some of that came from. So when you look at a chart and you see the number of days quarantined for people is all over the place, it's because when we found out that they were a close contact of a positive person is also all over the place. So it's hard to scientifically come up with anything other than an average number of days people get quarantined. But nonetheless, there are some ongoing questions for how we're going to treat staff as we head into spring. And, you know, if somebody gets multiple close contacts and they're not school related, does it matter to us? You know, when you think about someone who has tested positive, you don't know if for sure where they got it. That's just the way it is. So you wouldn't second guess on that. But if you have employees that it's repetitive and it's not related to school, does it matter to us? We have to decide that. And this was a conversation that I've had with a couple of employees. It's why I believe that in somewhere in the course of using days to be quarantined, they should use their annual allotted sick days so that they have an investment, so to speak, so that they have a reason to try to not be a close contact. But back to the FFCRA, you know, President Biden's draft plan came out, President-elect Biden, excuse me. And so, you know, we need to be prepared. It is just a draft, but it looks like it will continue through June the 30th. And if it does, and so if we were to bring something to you, it'll be in January. And if that plan gets extended, then all we have to do is make the determination of what are we going to do on a third, fourth, or fifth time a staff member gets quarantined during the spring of 2021, because hopefully by the fall of 2021, we can be back to more normalcy. So I just wanted to tee this up for the board. It's not an action item tonight. It's just something that we need to be thinking about, because we have to decide what is fair to our staff. We want to respect them because they're coming and trying to grind it out and serve our students. So we don't want people to get hurt financially, but also, is there a limit at which we say after 4 quarantines, if it's not a school quarantine, then it goes unpaid, or after 3, I don't know. So I just want the board to think about it, and Mr. James and I will continue to collect data from other people who are also facing the same question. But as I've said, most people are trying not to be a close contact, so I don't want it to paint the picture that this is rampant or that it's this colossal problem. It just helps to have a guideline in place for when the issue does arise. And I'm pretty confident that it'll happen a handful of times in the second semester. And I just want us to be somewhat prepared so people don't say they didn't think about that. We have been thinking about it. We've been thinking about it for weeks. And as we get to the end of this calendar year, we need to be prepared to do something. So I'd ask you again to review some of those notes, and if you have a chance to weigh in, I think if we were to do something, it would probably be at the second meeting in January, so we should have a chance to bring some kind of a draft plan at the first meeting in January for what Mr. James and I think is equitable, and that doesn't mean that we're right. It just means that this is based on other people we're talking to, where we're leaning, and the board, of course, can modify and or choose to do something before, or, you know, we'll still have time between the first meeting in January and when we would take action anyway. Mr. James, did I leave anything out there that you want to add? Okay,
So this is all staff, certified and classified, correct?
all staff, correct. Okay, and then the last thing on the agenda, it says COVID data since 12/8. It's really COVID data since 12/11, and it's data we collected today again. We've been doing this, well, Terry's been doing this with our principals for about 6 or 7 days in a row now, because we want to keep a close eye on where we are as we head down the stretch here to the holiday break. And we are in much better shape than the data that was shared with you last Friday. Certainly the high school was, the number was really up there. The piece I wanted to share with the board tonight that leads to a discussion that Janice touched on a little bit ago is that third column with the self-quarantined for this week. So we've seen a lot of people shift, mainly at the secondary level, as you can see, to watch in class from home, to go to remote learning for this week. And so if we're going, without surveying people, if we're going to speculate as to why they chose to do that, it could be that they're putting in place an informal quarantine of such prior to them visiting with family over the holidays, whether it's grandparents or aunts and uncles or to travel or what have you. But it does, you know, the high school now is sitting at about 43% in-person learning. So when you see the number drop to there, it does make one wonder if after this holiday break, we should start back remotely for a period of time to also allow for a lengthier quarantine period for anybody who may even travel between Christmas and New Year's, or perhaps even for New Year's. And so I do believe that we want to hear what the board thinks on that, because we believe it's prudent, based on these numbers, to strongly consider at least the first week back, not to delay the start, but to just do all remote for all people. And in this case, we also think that it could also include the applied skills students, and perhaps even those vocational students who we have brought in throughout the last suspension, but for this one, because it's really a time to just see where we stand after the break, that we just do everything remote for a week. It would not be that critical to take, you know, a week away from our vocational students. We wouldn't want to extend that too much deeper, because they learn a lot better, as Mrs. Suze knows, when they're putting their hands on the machines. So just want to seek the board's opinion on that at this point.
Would that be for all students, or would you think to keep the high school home and the middle school home and send the little ones, or you think?
No, we would lean towards everybody for the first week.
And when would that be announced for parents and staff so they can prepare?
Tomorrow, if I don't sense resistance from the board this evening.
The opening day of school in January is the,
4th.
4th.
right, so they bring them back on the 11th?
I don't see a problem with that at all. I know that Purdue University has taken their spring break and put it on the end of winter break, and they're keeping the kids home an extra week for the same reason. They will go back a week later and then just go straight through and try to make it through. I think it's a good idea. I think it would give parents some time to think about, you know, especially ones that travel, things like that. And if you did the survey, it would give that whole week for, you know, parents to be informed, for students to realize how to fill out the forms, things like that, if they had to fill something out.
It would also be our intention, as we've been doing here, even over the Thanksgiving break, to continue to track the data. So if, you know, the current trend, of course, we're red in Lake County. Hospitalization are up. I think they're steady right now, but they're still elevated from a month ago. And if they would ratchet one notch higher, I wouldn't rule out 1 week turning into 2.
Right.
If you listen to the national epidemiologists, they believe the middle of January will be the peak.
Right.
So I know that we've had people at our board meetings before who don't like hearing this type of talk come out of my mouth, but I want to be honest with people and as transparent as we can be. If the numbers are horrible, we would extend that. But I think it makes sense, given what happened after Thanksgiving and given that we have a lot of people choosing to self-quarantine right now, that a quarantine after Christmas makes sense.
And again, as long as you're letting them know so they have the time to prepare, like you said, and make those arrangements and contact us if they can't make arrangements, things like that, then I think that's a great idea.
Cindy? Regards to what Dr. Bracco has just laid out for us here, I'm fully supportive of that. We're going into a period of time after the post-Thanksgiving period where we're going to collect all kinds of data and walk into Christmas, New Year's, etc. To me, it's a dangerous time because people are just tired, and I just personally feel that maybe the guards are going to be let down and people are collectively going to try to congregate and get together. I don't know what the answers are, but I think it's a reasonable approach, and I support that.
If you think it's best, I mean, I would support you. I don't know all the particulars. You know, our focus has always been on can we staff it? And, I mean, I hate to see the little ones at home because we know some of the environments they are in. I just hate that. But ultimately, if it's to keep people safe, I mean, it makes sense. Boy. That's why I wish we could keep the little ones home, or
Does that
in
mean you would
school.
keep, oh,
Mhm.
I apologize, I did not mean to speak over you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Does that mean staff would stay home also? You're saying that they're going to be quarantined at home as well, or they are required to come in?
Well, for that week, we would consider allowing them the option of working out of their home or in the school. Many of our teachers want to be in there to use their smart boards. That's their main delivery model. They're comfortable there, but we may consider for that week a switch from what we did on the last suspension, which we did require the teachers to come in except for Friday.
And would we have some sort of alternative placement for students that their parents absolutely couldn't find anything for them to do, couldn't find anywhere for them to go? They're willing to fill out a certification form. Would we be able to accommodate any families that were in that situation?
I think we can. We'll look into that option.
Okay,
Or families that can't afford it.
Right.
It's out there,
whatever that may be, yes.
yeah. You know, you might want to reach out to Kathy LaRue at the Township Trustee's office too and see if a partnership can't be developed on that. Because she's here to help with family situations. And Julie Altoff, I believe, also is on the Children and Family Committee down at the legislative. So maybe some things would come out of that.
I support that, Larry, if, like you said, the number's starting to rise, the classified staff, certified staff are not available, then I support whatever your recommendation is.
Well, that may not be the case right after Christmas. We're just trying to make a preemptive move based on what happened after Thanksgiving. So, and this is where, people can say, Larry, that's not the way you deal with the snow. They can have a forecast for a half a foot, but you wait till it starts dropping before you do the delay. And that is true.
I don't think
But I think in this case, we sort of have history. We have an example of what happened with a 5-day break. And based on that, I'm willing to stick our neck out and say, we think it would at least be at that level after a 2-week break. And if that doesn't occur, that is great. That means we can come back on the 11th and really dig right in. So, I understand that it won't make everybody happy. Nothing that is going on during this COVID era is, but we're trying to navigate it the best we can to keep staff and students safe and also to keep grinding through our academic year.
Does it change any part of the schedule that comes after that, or?
Shouldn't.
It's a 911 alert. It just came over my phone.
So like,
Okay,
It would
well,
change.
if you get other thoughts, if you could get to us, and we'll have a meeting tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock at central office to,
Good.
I think the
Put our-
board
prefer we
has
did that.
supported your decision, so.
Yes, yeah.
okay.
does it end the final day of school? Do we tack this on to the end, or?
No, we're still in school.
learn.
No, we'll do it all remote.
Right.
Finals
It
is
will
that
be
week for a
fully
lot of-
learning.
I'm sorry, overtime.
Well, that was my concern with finals. being
Finals are that week too.
And the,
We're doing mainly unit exams this semester. We don't have a lot of the summative finals that we've had in the past
okay.
due to the delivery system.
Okay.
And I know, like, for example, at our school, we're choosing that first week is going to be an enrichment/recovery week because, like all the other schools across the country, our failure rates are out of the roof right now. So we're doing a recovery/enrichment week. So students who passed everything, they will have some enrichment that week. Students who are right on that bubble, like we had to fill out surveys to find out which ones are on the bubble, which ones are absolutely not, any chance, things like that. And so I think it's great that you're going remote that week. Give everyone a chance to get themselves together.
So my last item is not on your agenda, but you do have a handout before you, and it is the letter that's titled Dear Association Members. This was sent out by all of our associations. Of course, we're members of ISBA, we're members of IASBO, I'm a member of IAPSS, we have principals in the IASP. So most of these organizations we're part of, and they all signed on, and it's a challenge to Hal, Mr. Slager, and his General Assembly to look at a multi-year approach to the teacher compensation problem. And we appreciate the efforts of the committee to put some ideas down, and we look forward to solutions being brought forth during the General Assembly.
Like Larry said earlier, that is on ISBA on Wednesday. If you want to register, there might be space. Do you know committee members? Any idea who was the chairperson of this?
If you go to that 183-page report, that's on like page 3.
Page 3.
Yeah.
Is this the one that Superintendent of Education chaired?
The new one,
Okay.
Katie Jenner, was on it.
Okay.
She did not chair it. The chair was the one who, the fellow who spoke today was the old CEO of a couple of corporations. So take a look at that, at least the executive summary. And as Dr. Malco said on Wednesday at 9, ISBA is going to dissect at least part of the report. And it will obviously draw some legislative priorities out of all of these organizations. So,
And I think it becomes so important because I heard a news report the other day that indicated that Indiana is 4th from the bottom as far as teachers leaving the profession. Way down there. So we have a lot of them leaving and going other places.
Thank you. Anything else, Dr. Varrico?
not for now.
All right, we'll move on to our Director of Human Resources Personnel, Mrs. Mucha.
Thank you very much. We are recommending that the following be approved. I do want to bring attention to someone special who
Can we
has...
remove that B1? Denied.
that it might be a good time to retire. Agree with her. I just want to bring to the attention how much she's done for our elementary curriculum. It's much broader, a much more level for all people. She's one of the hardest workers that I know. I know that because either she calls me on Sunday or else she comes in on Monday with great ideas and solutions to problems. So she is definitely a loyal supporter of LC and all of our students and staff. So I recommend these persons.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Do we have a motion?
I don't think anyone wants to.
I know. I don't want my name on the
Say no.
No.
Are we doing the whole list or just, okay, so moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Malco
Second.
and a second by Ms. Lessentine. Any questions or comments?
Yes, Madam President, within this packet that Terry has presented, we do have a resignation of our head football coach. I just want to make a very short statement. Tony was our head football coach for 4 years. Not everybody agreed with what transpired, and obviously the program did not show a lot of movement forward in terms of the wins and losses. But I'm a firm believer in the fact that the measure of an individual being the head coach is not always reflected in wins and losses. He may or may not have had a lot of effect with a number of players, and I'm sure he put in the effort and the time, and from this board member's perspective, I want to extend to him a thank you for his service for the 4 years at least, and wish him well if any endeavors come up in the future. That's all I wanted to say at this time.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Hearing none.
My second item is to bring to your attention that during this time of COVID, we have often asked our employees who work 3 days a week to come in and work additional days. They have saved us many a time. So we are asking if we do need to do that, instead of paying them at a lower substitute rate, if we could pay them at their regular rate instead, beginning January 5th.
Sounds good. So moved.
I think that would make
We,
Do we need a motion?
we have a motion by Mr.
Second.
Baxo. We have a second by Ms. Lessentine. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll move on to our Director of Primary Education, Mrs. Schoen.
Thank you. Agenda and
We have a motion by Ms. Lessentine,
Second?
second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Awesome. Okay.
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Malco,
Second.
second by Mr. Baxo. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Marshall,
Second?
second by Dr. Malco. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you.
thank you.
Motion passes. We'll move on to our Director of Business Services, Mr. James.
Thank you. My only item is to seek your approval for not only the donations that were in your original board packet, but the added donations that were part of your revised agenda. But before you move forward on that one. One of the new items is for $350 to be donated to the Salvation Army from the high school. There's actually more to the story, but this is actually the only dollar amount. So the high school does an annual Toys for Tot drive, and so kids are able, or families or students are able to bring in actual toys if they wanted to, or they could have donated dollars. And this morning, first of all, there was an entire truckload of toys that were collected by the students and staff of the high school.
Oh my
And in addition to that, there was over $4,000 worth of monetary donations. So Mr. Begley, one of the assistant principals and students went to Target and bought toys and clothes of $4,000 worth, in addition to the truckload of the toys. And that was all dispersed and taken to the Salvation Army today.
Oh, how
And then
neat.
some other dollars trickled in afterwards, and that was the $350 that they want to still give to them. So there's a lot more to the donation, but this is the only one that was really running through. So great effort from the students here and the staff, and I just wanted to make sure that they get some great recognition for the stuff that
Absolutely.
they do for this community. So.
Yeah, that's great.
So with that being said, I seek your approval on the donation.
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Malco
Second.
and a second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Did
Any-
anyone take pictures?
I know Sean did because he sent me a couple. So we'll talk to him, and I'm sure they took some. So we'll look to get those out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I don't think we have any public comments, so with that, we'll move on to our board comments and consideration of future agenda items. Ms. Lessentine, we'll start with you.
I first of all want to say thank you to Teresa for your service, because you have done a lot for our district, and I love the way that you've moved our district in the direction it's going, so thank you for all you do. Same with our administrators. I know our administrative team, I know they're not all here, but I know you guys will get out to them, that you guys have a lot of work to do still over the break. I know there's not necessarily a break, that you guys are going to be working and just trying to figure out what's best for our students and staff like you do every day. And I know that you are all brilliant and will figure it all out, and it's going to be a lot of work, and we know that, and we thank you for all of your time and efforts that you're putting in. I don't have any future agenda items for right now. I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Malco?
It's good to see you back, Mrs. Lessentine.
I know,
It's been
isn't
a long
this,
time.
I know, COVID hit my house too, so I get it,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, just tagging on to what Rob was talking about, that's a prime example why I think that we should investigate in public relations, even if it's a part-time person. From being an administrator years ago, I know how hard and difficult and time-consuming it is to get things in the paper. You fax it, you talk to somebody, and it still doesn't appear. But if we had a public relations person, I just think it would be awesome. I mean, they could do multiple venues and multiple formats. And I did ask that to be on the agenda, and Jean, I believe, typed up all the all the statements I made. So I'm asking once again for that to be discussed at a future agenda, or, you know, to bring us some ideas on that. Wanted to share with you, I got a text message from a teacher today at Colleen saying things are still really good at school. So we hang our hat on hearing those positive things. So wanted you to know that, Mrs. Cruz. And then a parent of several students also owns a business in town and was part of the work-based learning program that we have. And so I believe that they had some type of event at the high school recently where they brought in all the employers who had had a high school student working with them. Well, this employer from the work-based learning program, also a parent, came to me and said, "My gosh, I just can't believe how much Lake Central has going on." I believe it was more in the business department, but very, very impressed by what she experienced that day. So if you would get that message back to whomever that would have been, that would be very nice, Erin. Thank you. I think that's it. Other than Larry, what is the format for basketball games, football, or basketball games? Or are we, is it closed? Is it open? Do people know?
It's closed to the public, so it's open to parents and minor children that need supervision. They're limiting the number of tickets per family to 6, and they only sit in the upper level of the gym for all the winter sports. And I believe swimming is limited to 2 guests per participant.
That is correct.
It's on their website, the athletic website. The restrictions are there.
So for those of us that'd like to see a game, but we can't go because of that, is there a way to watch the game online or something?
He is cooking up something to have those things streamed. Currently, you can still watch them on YouTube, that our students are still doing it, but
They are?
Chris is working on a plan to have somebody else do it where he can get a little bit of revenue.
Okay, okay. The IHS,
IHS.
I know what you're saying, IHS, and we can watch it on there? Oh, really? Okay. So that's through the IHSAA website. Okay, cool. And then, Don, it's been awesome working with you all these years, and I wish you the best in your new journey. I know you have some new ideas you're exploring. And I'd like to wish everybody the merriest of Christmas, and thanks for all your dedication to our students.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to wish everybody in the audience, their immediate families, and everybody a very joyous holiday season. Stay safe and well. And again, Janice opened the door. We have Don in his last meeting with us, official meeting. We'll have another very short meeting on the 21st, but I'm not sure we're going to have that many people in the audience. Anyway, recognize the fact that Don has served 12 years here as a board member, and I would like to give a big round of applause for Don's efforts. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. And normally I go last, but I'm going to let Don go last. So I would like to also say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. And I would like to say thank you, Don. Thank you for representing the children and community of Dyer for the past 12 years. Because of your unwavering commitment to the betterment of the Lake Central School Corporation, we can thank you for where Lake Central is today. You've helped shape LC, a highly rated public school corporation, with your leadership, not only with your support of our superintendent, Dr. Baracco, our administration, approval of many policy and procedures, but also most notably helping with the successful passing of the 2011 Capitol Building Referendum that saw the rebuild of Protzman Elementary and the renovation of the Lake Central High School. We can also thank you for your help in passing the 2018 operational referendum that allowed Lake Central to offer competitive wages to hire and retain our valuable staff in all areas. We wish you nothing but the best today and in the future. Thank you, Don Baxo.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it. Your turn.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to say thank you. Yeah, this is probably, like Howard said, the second to the last meeting. I want to thank, our central office administrators, building principals, assistant principals, all those teachers, paraprofessionals, custodians even that I've met. And I can honestly call my friends after 12 years with the Lake Central School Corporation. The school corporation truly has the best of classified and certified staff anywhere in the state of Indiana. I want to give a shout out to my family and friends for supporting me over the past dozen years. At times it was not easy for my family. You know, I was trying to juggle stresses of full-time work, you know, a part-time school board position, and providing, you know, for my wife and my 2 sons. It's with deep gratitude that I thank Lake Central for providing an excellent educational opportunity for my 2 sons to prepare them for college years and beyond. As this new year begins, and I know there's going to be a bunch of you taking an oath of office on January 4th, I wanted to remind the board as to their ultimate outcome to every conflict, every email, every comment, or consideration that arises. As the first rule of the Indiana School Board ethics states, always think in terms of children first. You take on that responsibility as a school board member to not appease the squeaky wheels, as they will continue to squeak no matter what you do. You do it for the children. As a school board member, you should take every decision into context as to how it will better the children of this school community, and not to use it as a tool for a select few. You should recognize that your decisions will have lasting effects on this school community and public education long, long after you have vacated this position. Lastly, to those young families out there with children in our school corporation, if you're looking for a way to get involved in the educational future of your children, please consider serving as a board member. You already have a vested interest in the process, so why not bring new and refreshing ideas to this school corporation? Again, I thank you, Lake Central. I thank all those teachers, all the paraprofessionals, all the administrators, and those custodians, and all those people I've met over the years. God bless you and thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our board calendar of future activities. Dr. Veraco.
Well, I just also want to wish a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody, and all the other religious holidays that apply. And hopefully people can get some rest. We will be officially, you know, on vacation, but as Sandy said, there's going to be some time each day that's going to have to be used to check in. So we'll be in and out, but you have my cell, so you can contact me on that. And we're back here on January 4th.
4 o'clock next.
4
Monday?
o'clock next Monday.
Monday the
Yeah,
Okay, sounds good.
we'll see you then. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that.
All right, so we have a motion for adjournment.
Move for adjourn.
Mr. Marshall, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Malkow, excuse me, Dr. Malkow, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.